So, hi everyone, good morning. Today is 6th of May 2026, and we have a few very important news items to cover in today's newspaper. And we'll start with the first news item for the day. And the first news item that we have with us is today is basically a statement from the former Chief Minister of West Bengal, Mamata Banerjee, where she have Now, this statement holds a lot of relevance in today's context because she has refused to resign from the post of the Chief Minister of West of Bengal. This is not something new this is actually something new. It is happening, I guess, for the very first time in Indian history that a sitting Chief Minister have resigned, have refused to resign from the post of the Chief Minister, and she have said that she is not sure about the process through which elections have taken place. Elections have not taken place in a free and fair manner. Election Commission of India has colluded with the union government to have elections in the state of West Bengal. So this is not the original mandate of the people of West Bengal. So she won't resign from her post. This was the statement given by the former Chief Minister of West Bengal, Mamata Banerjee. Now, just by saying that I won't resign from the post will not fulfill the cause of Mamata Banerjee, because there are certain constitutional mandates which she has to follow, and one of the most important constitutional mandate related to the term of the state legislative assembly is Article 172. Right? Article 172. Now, what is there in Article 172 is also very relevant for us to understand. So, Article 172 is nothing but it talks about the term of the state legislative assembly. Please remember Article 172. 172, it talks about the term of the state legislative assembly, that what would be the appropriate term of the state legislative assembly. So Article 172 makes it absolutely clear that the term would be 5 years from the first meeting of the assembly. Right? After elections. So Article 172 is very clear with in this particular context that every elected state legislative assembly will have a term of 5 years from the फर्स्ट मीटिंग इलेक्शन के बाद जब सारे मेंबर ऑफ स्टेट लेजिस्लेटिव असेंबलीज एमएलएस की एक मीटिंग होती है उसके बाद जो टर्म होगा वो 5 इयर्स का होगा एंड बट देयर इज अ कंडीशन एज वेल दैट यूनियन गवर्नमेंट can extend this term by a year. यूनियन गवर्नमेंट इस टर्म को 1 साल बढ़ा भी सकते हैं अगर उनको लगता है देयर आर कंडीशंस विच एग्जिस्ट इन द गिवन सिनेरियो जहां पर इलेक्शंस नहीं हो सकते हैं, कोई भी कंडीशन इमरजेंसी वगैरह कुछ भी है. सो द टर्म ऑफ द स्टेट लेजिस्लेटिव असेंबली कैन बी एक्सटेंडेड फॉर अ ईयर. But in this particular context, there is no reason as such which should be considered by the union government to increase or to extend the tenure of the state legislative assembly. So this is it is highly unlikely to happen that the state legislative assembly will increase or extend the term of the West Bengal state legislative assembly beyond the period of 1 year. And let's understand one more point that on 7th of May 2026 जो 5 year का term होगा as per Article 172 it would be completed and Mamata Banerjee has to resign from the post because क्योंकि जब एक बार 5 साल का term complete हो जाता है so you cannot stay in the office because you are no more the elected representative. Though the chief minister of any particular state remains in the office as per the whims, as per the pleasure of the governor, but pleasure of the governor is not something which is very discretionary because pleasure of the governor is basically is a co-terminus with Article 172, right? So this is something that we have to understand. Now moving on to the second news item. So the party chief of Tamilga Vetri Kajagam TVK, Joseph Vijay, has, you know, uh, clearly made it absolutely clear that he will form the government in Tamil Nadu, though he has 107 seats, and which are not basically sufficient for forming the government. Tamil Nadu में government form करने के लिए a person or a party needs 118 seats, क्योंकि total number of seats are 234, and Tamilga Vetri Kajagam has secured 107 seats. So they are still short of 11 seats, but they have a certain member of legislative assembly जो इनका support करेंगे, और इसमें सबसे important role play करने वाली है Indian National Congress, because they have 5 member of legislative assemblies, so they might play a very important role in the formation of the government in the Tamil Nadu. But at the same time, the Tamil Nadu Congress committee has laid down a very important condition, that this condition must be fulfilled. If TVK wants their support, then this particular condition must be fulfilled. And what is that condition? Ki Tamilga Vetri Kajagam will not take any kind of support from the Bharatiya Janata Party or their supporters. So this is their primary condition, that we are willing to provide you the support. We'll provide you the support of 5 members of legislative assembly, but at the same time TVK has to ensure that they don't take any kind of support from the Bharatiya Janata Party or their allies, right? Which is quite understandable, because Indian National Congress is the main opposition, so they don't want any thing like that to happen, कि जिसका आप union पे at the central level you are opposing them, and at the state level you cannot support them. So idea is very clear. Assam Assembly may not have a leader of opposition, and we know this why Assam State Legislative Assembly may not have a declared opposition in the State Legislative Assembly, and the reason is very simple, and the reason is कि अगर किसी भी particular political party को State Legislative Assembly में या Parliament में opposition रजिस्टर्ड opposition बनना होता है, तो उनको मिनिमम 1/10 सीट सिक्योर करनी होती है, राइट? सो बेसिकली आसाम में टोटल मेंबर ऑफ लेजिस्लेटिव असेंबली कितनी, टोटल स्ट्रेंथ कितनी है 126, एंड अ पार्टी नीड्स टू सिक्योर अ मिनिमम ऑफ 13 सीट्स. This is the basic quorum which a particular political party has to fulfill. They have to secure a minimum of 10% of the total strength of the state legislative assembly. Then only they can become or they can raise a claim that they want to be a member of or they want to give the leader of opposition. So यहाँ पर ऐसा हुआ नहीं है असम में कि किसी भी पार्टी ने आफ्टर एनडीए अलायंस की किसी पार्टी ने मिनिमम 13 सीट सिक्योर की हो. अब इसके बाद जो नेक्स्ट इंपॉर्टेंट कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है, अब हम वापस से चलते हैं वेस्ट एशिया में. काफी दिनों से कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट डेवलपमेंट नहीं हुआ था. नाउ देयर इज अ लेटेस्ट डेवलपमेंट, एंड द डेवलपमेंट इज ट्रूस विद ईरान होल्ड्स डिस्पाइट फ्रेश अटैक्स, सेड यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका. So we know this on 8th of April 2026 there was a ceasefire between Iran and United States of America. Both countries agreed that they will not attack each other. That was a very firm position and it was very much needed for the international stability, for global stability. But after 15 days, क्योंकि initially जो ये पूरा का पूरा peace talks था या पूरा का पूरा जो ceasefire था, it was for 15 days and it was set to expire on 23rd of April 2026. So between 8th of April 2026 to 23rd of April 2026, only one round of peace negotiations took place, that too in Islamabad. And these peace talks were popularly known as Islamabad peace talks. First round वहां पर हुआ, कोई substantial outcome उसका निकल के नहीं आया. उसके बाद में second round of peace talks were supposed to take place in Islamabad, but because of some unavoidable reasons, because of some unforeseen demands from the United States of America, Iran avoided itself from the participating in the second round of peace negotiations. अब उसके बाद क्या हुआ कि Strait of Hormuz, which is a 33 kilometer wide water passage which connects Persian Gulf to Gulf of Oman. Academically, it's a very relevant point. 33 kilometer wide water passage है Strait of Hormuz, जो Persian Gulf को connect करता है Gulf of Oman से, right? अब ये जो 33 किलोमीटर वाइड वाटर पैसेज है विच कनेक्ट्स पर्शियन गल्फ टू गल्फ ऑफ ओमान, पर्शियन गल्फ टू गल्फ ऑफ ओमान, ये इंटरनेशनल इंपॉर्टेंस इसका बहुत है। और इसका इंटरनेशनल इंपॉर्टेंस क्यों? बिकॉज 20% ऑफ द ग्लोबल crude oil supply passes through Strait of Hormuz. So now after Iran shut down the Strait of Hormuz because it exclusively falls in their territorial waters, तो उन्होंने इसको बंद कर दिया। अब ईरान को कंपेल करने के लिए दैट ईरान शुड पार्टिसिपेट और ईरान वुड पार्टिसिपेट इन द नेक्स्ट राउंड ऑफ पीस नेगोशिएशंस, यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका ने क्या किया कि ब्लॉक कर दिया स्ट्रेट ऑफ हॉर्मूज को गल्फ ऑफ ओमान के साइड में, राइट। अब क्या हुआ कि ईरान, इसकी वजह से क्या हुआ कि ईरान अब क्रूड ऑयल का जो एक्सपोर्ट है उसको नहीं कर पा रहा है, तो उनका अल्टीमेटली क्या होगा कि उनका जो फॉरेन एक्सचेंज रिजर्व है वो नीचे जाएगा, उनका जो इकोनॉमी है वो थोड़ा सा नीचे जाएगा। सो एंड ऑल दीज थिंग्स आर डन टू इंश्योर वन थिंग दैट ईरान शुड पार्टिसिपेट इन द नेक्स्ट राउंड ऑफ पीस नेगोशिएशंस। बट अभी तक ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं हुआ जहां पर ईरान ने ये हिंट तक दिया हो दैट दे विल पार्टिसिपेट इन द नेक्स्ट राउंड ऑफ पीस नेगोशिएशन। But in the current context, we have to understand one thing, that though Iran has not given any concrete statement, but United States of America is pretty sure that the truce which was there, it is in the, it still exists and there is nothing to worry about, right? So I always say this ki there is no use of I mean if you are attending the session, then always try to ask as many questions as you can. These questions might be related to your preparation, these questions might be related to your curiosity or your you know, anything of the similar context. Now moving on to the next point. So yesterday the Chief Minister of Punjab, Bhagwant Mann Singh, met द प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडिया द्रौपदी मुर्मू जी से कल मिलते हैं भगवंत मान सिंह। और ये मीटिंग बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट थी क्योंकि रिसेंटली 7 मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट फ्रॉम आम आदमी पार्टी इन राज्यसभा, दे मर्ज्ड विद भारतीय जनता पार्टी। सो मिस्टर मान met the president of India in the same context. He wanted that the membership of all these 7 member of parliament should be cancelled. Now there is a catch that we have to understand. So when we talk about anti-defection law, थोड़ा सा स्टैटिक के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से कुछ चीजें आप लोग याद रखिएगा। When we talk about anti-defection law, so 52nd Constitutional Amendment Act inserted 10th schedule in the Indian Constitution, which was anti-defection law. डिफेक्शन का मतलब क्या होता है? व्हेन अ पर्टिकुलर मेंबर डिफेक्ट्स फ्रॉम वन पार्टी टू द अदर पार्टी, जब कोई एक मेंबर एक पार्टी छोड़ करके किसी दूसरी पार्टी में चला जाता है, देन दिस पर्टिकुलर कॉन्सेप्ट इज नोन एज डिफेक्शन. नाउ द नेक्स्ट पॉइंट दैट वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट इन द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ एंटी डिफेक्शन लॉ देयर इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट अमेंडमेंट एक्ट विच इज नोन एज 91st Constitutional Amendment Act. And what is the relevance of 91st Constitutional Amendment Act? So 91st Constitutional Amendment Act lays down a very important provision that if 2/3 members of a party joins the other political party, then it would not be considered as defection. Then instead of defection, it would be considered as merger. In the case of Aam Aadmi Party, there were total 10 member of parliaments in Rajya Sabha, and out of 10, 7 have joined Bharatiya Janata Party. So it is more than 2/3. It is almost 70. It is actually 70%. So this will not be considered as defection. This would be considered as merger, and this merger has been already approved by the chairman of Rajya Sabha, Mr. C.P. Radhakrishnan. C.P. Radhakrishnan has already approved the merger of these 7 member of parliaments. So this will not be considered as defection, but as per the provision of 91st Constitutional Amendment Act, this would be considered as merger. तो भगवंत मान का president of India से मिलना would not have a substantial impact on the membership of these 7 member of parliaments of Rajya Sabha from Aam Aadmi Party. Right. Now UAE पर कल यूनाइटेड अरब ऑफ एमिरेट्स की कल कुछ ऑयल इंस्टॉलेशंस पे, कुछ ऑयल फैसिलिटीज पे ईरान ने अटैक किया, जिसमें कुछ इंडियंस भी इंजर्ड हुए. 3 इंडियंस वर इंजर्ड इन दिस अटैक एंड इंडिया हैज क्रिटिसाइज्ड दिस पर्टिकुलर स्टेप ऑफ Iran, Islamic State of Iran. So this is only relevant point that we have to discuss. Now moving on to the next point, it is academically very relevant because the Union Cabinet has approved the a very important proposal, and that proposal is to increase, and it is to increase the strength of the Supreme Court of India. Now the current strength, this topic is very much important for CLAT, for AILET, and for all other law entrance tests. So please be very watchful about all the facts that we'll be discussing in today's newspaper. So the current strength of the Supreme Court is 33 judges plus 1 CGI. So current total strength is 34. Now the Parliament of India has proposed, or the Union Cabinet has given approval to a very important proposal, and the proposal is to increase the number of judges, or to increase the total strength of the Supreme Court from 34 to 38, including Chief Justice of India, which means that now as per the given proposal there would be 37 Supreme Court judges, including 1 CJI. Right. So when we talk about the evolution of the strength of the Supreme Court judges, students, we have to understand one very important point, that when the Supreme Court of India was constituted on 25th of January 1950, always remember the date of the formation of the Supreme Court post independence, and that is 25th of January 1950. So when the Supreme Court of India was constituted, at that time the strength of the Supreme Court used to be 7 judges plus 1 CJI, and it is very easy to remember. 7 hai to thala for a reason, 7 judges plus 1 CJI. And please do like the video. I mean, please keep on dropping your comments in the comment section. Please like the video as well, so that I do get the idea that how many of you are getting my point, which I'm actually trying to make here, right? So when the Supreme Court of India was constituted on 25th of January 1950, at that time the strength of the Supreme Court was 7 judges plus a CJI. Right. Now we'll move to the next important point. Related to the Supreme Court of India. So as per the current proposal, the strength would be increased from 34 to 38. Now, Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw said that the top court currently has a sanctioned strength of 33 judges and the Chief Justice of India. A bill would be brought in the next session of the Parliament to raise the strength by 4. So monsoon session में ये bill आएगा. अब ये जो strength बढ़ाने का proposal है, what are the different reasons why this particular proposal was brought by the Union government or the Parliament of India? The reason is very simple. There is a huge pendency of cases. There is a large pendency of cases in the Supreme Court, which is as of now there are more than 92,000 pending cases in the Supreme Court of India. And to resolve the pendency of cases, this particular proposal has been given by the Union government. Right. Now let's move to the next important point related to this particular topic. The cabinet approval will be followed by an amendment to the 1956 Act. Article 124 clause 1 gives Parliament the sole authority of increasing the sanctioned strength of the Supreme Court of India. Right. So now another important point that we have to understand, and it is related to the power of the Parliament. Now what is the relevant point related to the powers of the Parliament? So in this context we have another important point that we need to discuss, and this is basically Article 124 clause 1. Now, what is the law given in Article 124 clause 1? So basically Article 124 to Article 147, it's all about the Supreme Court of India. If you start having a look at article 120, from article 124 to article 147, you will find each and every provision is related to the Supreme Court of India, whether it's about the appointment, whether it's about the removal, or whether it's about the term of tenure of the Supreme Court judge, whether it's about the powers of the Supreme Court अंडर आर्टिकल 142 और रिव्यू पावर, सारी चीजें आर्टिकल 124 से लेकर के 147 के बीच में ही डिस्कस की गई हैं, राइट. नाउ मूविंग ऑन टू द नेक्स्ट इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट. सो व्हाट इज देयर इन आर्टिकल 124 क्लॉज 1? A very simple yet a very powerful thing. So article 124 clause 1 empowers the parliament to increase the sanctioned strength of the Supreme Court from time to time, right? जो भी Supreme Court का sanctioned strength है, as per Article 124 Clause 1, the Parliament of India can increase that strength through a law, through a legislation. Parliament is absolutely allowed to do this. So this remains a very valid point of discussion, and this will actually help the Supreme Court of India in reducing the pendency of cases at the apex court. Now moving on to the next point. Now I would like to ask a question, and I'd like also, I'd like to have your opinion on this. More than opinion, I want to have the answer from your side. So when the first Supreme Court of India was constituted, who was the first Chief Justice? Who was the first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of India? Anyone? Anyone would like to answer the question? And Divyansh this said, Bhaiya, what's the most important topic can we that we can make the notes? The first topic would be that you make notes about the recent statement given by the Mamata Banerjee that she will not resign from the post. And in that context, Article 172 becomes extremely relevant, which talks about the tenure of the State Legislative Assembly, which is of 5 years. Then you can make notes of another important topic, which is the recent proposal of the Parliament to increase the sanctioned strength of the Supreme Court from 34 judges to 38 judges. राइट. सो दिस इज समथिंग जो अभी तक यहाँ पर 2 टॉपिक्स हमने ऐसे डिस्कस किए जिनके आप नोट्स बना सकते हैं, राइट. नाउ who was the first Supreme Court Chief Justice? That is a very important question. Anyone? Who was the first Supreme Court Chief Justice? The first Chief Justice of India. So H.J. Kania was the first Chief Justice of India, and currently Mr. or Justice Suryakant is the 53rd Chief Justice of India. So these are 2 important points, right? So these are the points which are extremely relevant in the present context. Now we'll move to the next one. Now there are few important points related to the Supreme Court which are important, और ये आप लोग याद रखेंगे. So the appointment of the Supreme Court judge is always approved by the President of India, but names are always recommended by a body called collegium. And collegium में कौन कौन होता है? So collegium is basically Chief Justice of India plus 4 senior most judges. So collegium recommends the name to the president, to the union government, and then finally after the approval, the names are given to the President of India. Then under this sign and seal of the President of India, these names are approved, right? So this is something which is very important. Then the retirement age of the Supreme Court judges is 65 years. This is a major difference between the Supreme Court and the High Court. High Court judges का जो retirement age होता है that is 62 years, and the Supreme Court judges का जो retirement age होता है that is 62 years, right? So this is also a very big difference between the Supreme Court and High Court. Supreme Court सिर्फ एक है जो दिल्ली में, there are total 25 High Courts across the India, right? Now we'll move to the next point. Now, cabinet gives not to make insult to Vande Mataram an offense. So, by basically recently the union government has amended National Honor Act of 1971. So this year a lot of development is taking place around Vande Mataram, because last year 150 years हुए थे वंदे मातरम के. और इस बार जो हमारा रिपब्लिक डे 77th रिपब्लिक डे दैट वी सेलिब्रेटेड, उसका थीम भी यही था, 150 years of Vande Mataram. Now when we talk about Vande Mataram, students, there are a few points that we have to understand. That it's basically origin वगैरह तो सबको पता होगा, 1875 बंकिम चंद्र चट्टोपाध्याय और बंकिम चंद्र चैटर्जी, आनंद मठ. फिर पहली बार वंदे मातरम गाया कब गया? पहली बार वंदे मातरम गाया गया 1896 में. किसने गाया? द फर्स्ट नोबेल प्राइज विनर फ्रॉम इंडिया कौन थे? रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर ने सबसे पहले पब्लिकली नेशनल सॉन्ग जो हमारा बना इसको गाया रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर ने. और कब गाया? ड्यूरिंग द एनुअल सेशन ऑफ इंडियन नेशनल कांग्रेस विच वाज हेल्ड इन कोलकाता. फिर एक नेक्स्ट इंपॉर्टेंट डेवलपमेंट कब हुआ? नेक्स्ट इंपॉर्टेंट डेवलपमेंट हुआ स्टूडेंट्स अक्टूबर 1937 में. एंड व्हाट हैपेंड इन अक्टूबर 1937? that the Congress Working Committee, CWC Congress Working Committee, the Congress Working Committee adopted the first two stanzas as national song. Now my next question is very simple and I'd like to ask the question, on what date national song was adopted after independence? On what date national song was adopted after independence? This is a very important question. So on 24th of January 1950, Vande Mataram was adopted as the national song. Now students, there is another important point that we have to understand. So basically यूनियन गवर्नमेंट ने सबसे पहले सिर्फ जो पहले दो स्टैंजास थे, फर्स्ट टू स्टैंजास, दीज वर अडॉप्टेड एज द नेशनल सॉन्ग, राइट. अब टोटल 6 स्टैंजास हैं जिनको अब यूनियन होम मिनिस्ट्री ने मैंडेटरी कर दिया कि दीज 6 स्टैंजास नीड्स टू बी सिंग एट एनी ऑफिशियल इवेंट. और कोई मुझे ये बता सकता है कि व्हाट द क्वेश्चन इज वेरी सिंपल, what is the designated time to sing national songs, all 6 stanzas? Getting my question? So basically the time which has been allocated, it is 3 minutes 10 seconds. Now moving on to the next important question. Next important question हमारे लिए क्या है? So when we talk about the concept of fundamental duties, right, a very important thing for us to discuss fundamental duties. Now, what is there in the fundamental duties? So when we talk about fundamental duty, Article 51A talks about fundamental duties, and Article 51A clause A makes it mandatory कि जब भी हम national song, सॉरी नेशनल एंथम और हमारा जो नेशनल फ्लैग है उसकी रिस्पेक्ट करना, दैट इज अ फंडामेंटल ड्यूटी ऑफ एवरी पर्सन, राइट। अब वहां पर नेशनल सॉन्ग के बारे में कोई भी डिस्कशन नहीं मिलेगा आपको। व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज यू विल फाइंड नो डिस्कशन ऑफ नेशनल सॉन्ग, कि नेशनल सॉन्ग की रिस्पेक्ट करना is a fundamental duty of a person or not. But now the government of India or the union cabinet has amended National Honors Act of 1971, and it had made it, now it will make it mandatory that anyone who will not sing national song or who will, you know, show any kind of disrespect towards the national song will be prosecuted and it would be a punishable offense, right? So हमने पूरा बैकग्राउंड वंदे मातरम का डिस्कस कर लिया। करंट कॉन्टेक्स्ट में ये याद रखिएगा कि जब हम लोगों ने अडॉप्ट किया था एज वंदे मातरम को एज ए नेशनल सॉन्ग, then at that moment only two stanzas were adopted as the national song. Vande Mataram में पूरे 6 stanzas and it is a poem. So इसमें total 6 stanzas थे. Now it is mandatory to sing all 6 stanzas and the allocated time is 3 minutes 10 seconds which is 190 seconds. पहली बार रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर ने इसे 1896 में INC का सेशन जो कोलकाता में हुआ था वहां पर गाया था। फिर CWC ने इसे 1937 में अडॉप्ट किया था एज ए नेशनल सॉन्ग, और पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंस ऑन 24th of January 1950 it was adopted as the national song of India. Now moving on to the next point. Now this is a very important so academic perspective say what is the relevance of this article for your examination. So if you look at that specific perspective, then also this holds a quite relevance. So recently VDEM, Varieties of Democracy, this is an institute of VDEM, it has released a report. Varieties of Democracy Institute 2026 report, India is still classified as an electoral autocracy. So VDEM has classified India as an electoral autocracy, ranking in the lower half globally. The report notes a steady decline in democratic freedoms, especially in free expressions, media independence, and civil society, placing India among the worst autocratizers. This signals a growing dismantling of institutions and norms that supports accountability and pluralism, drawing increasing international scrutiny. So basically अभी बहुत सारा रिपोर्ट ऐसा है जिसमें अभी रिसेंटली प्रेस फ्रीडम इंडेक्स भी आया था, वर्ल्ड प्रेस फ्रीडम इंडेक्स, जिसमें भी हमने कुछ बहुत अच्छा परफॉर्म नहीं किया है. So basically all these things are highlighting towards only one thing, and that thing is very I don't know why there is nothing in the chat, because people are quite skeptical about giving answers to the question or presenting their opinions. I would like to say only one thing, रिलैक्स्ड चिल रहना है यार, आप लोगों को बहुत रिलैक्स रहिए. चैट सेक्शन होता है इसीलिए सो दैट यू कैन ओपन अप मोर, यू कैन प्रेजेंट योर व्यूज ऑन एनीथिंग, एंड यू गाइज आर लॉ एस्पिरेंट, राइट? सो यू शुड communicate more, you should try to convey your opinion more, right? So recently अब basically जो ये पूरा का पूरा आर्टिकल है वो इस चीज पर फोकस कर रहा है that how the union government is focusing or through academia it is targeting the freedom of speech and expression. Now whenever we talk about the fundamental rights, one of the most important fundamental rights is freedom of speech and expression. Now as per this report, the scholars in India, the academic scholars in India, they have certain restrictions, or certain restrictions have been imposed upon the these academicians. It cites declining university autonomy linked to rising political interference and pressure on institutions. Notably, it emphasizes the systematic enforcement of a Hindu nationalist agenda with higher education, with changes to curricula, limited scholar exploration, and reduced space for intellectual dissent. So these are the various important points which have been highlighted in the VDEM's report, that academicians in this country or the university at the core level are very much influenced by the political uh, opinions. Politics have a lot of say in the higher education, and a specific kind of policy is, being infiltrated in the higher education, right? These academic scholars are losing their autonomy day by day because of the more and more intervention of the political leaders, right? So recently there was a very important bill which was introduced by the parliament, and that was Viksit Bharat Shiksha Adhisthan bill. Now Viksit Bharat Shiksha Adhisthan bill will replace University Grant Commission, UGC, then NTC, then AI, All India Council of Technical Education, AICT. तो वहां पर भी उसका भी जब हम क्रिटिसिज्म या उसका भी हम ड्रॉबैक के बारे में डिस्कशन करते हैं, तो वहां पर भी हम एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट डिस्कस करते हैं कि इट विल गिव यूनियन गवर्नमेंट मोर ऑटोनॉमी, विकसित भारत शिक्षा अधिष्ठान. सो दीज आर द पॉइंट्स दैट वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड, that how these points will impact the autonomy of the higher education and the autonomy of the academicians at the highest level. A consistent and disturbing pattern emerges. Institutions are accused of failing to act against perpetrators. Internal complaints committee mandated to provide oversight and justice are described by critics as ornamental, existing more for formal compliance than for substantive accountability. When the very bodies designed to protect students and faculty become complicit through silence or inaction, the chilling effect deepens. Trust erodes, fear takes roots, and the message is unmistakable. Power will be protected, and voices that challenge it will find no refuge within the walls meant to nurture free inquiry. So these are the points which are highlighted by the author of this article, that how systematically the voice of those individuals who are having a particular kind of dissent is silenced, right? So that is also a very important point for us to consider, because when we talk about freedom of speech and expression in the higher education, and that's the beauty of the higher education. If there is no freedom of speech and expression, or the freedom of expression or speech is curtailed थ्रू अ सिस्टमेटिक प्रोसीजर, तो वो पूरा मजा खत्म हो जाएगा, राइट? जब अगर किसी टीचर की या आप लोगों की एज ए स्टूडेंट, अगर आप लोगों का फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच एंड एक्सप्रेशन खत्म हो जाए, तो फिर कैसा लगेगा? फिर यू वुड फील लाइक टोनी स्टार्क. वो आयरन मैन वाला सूट नहीं है. यू आर टोनी स्टार्क बट विदाउट द सूट ऑफ दैट, विदाउट द सूट ऑफ आयरन मैन, राइट? तो इसीलिए फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच एंड एक्सप्रेशन इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच एंड speech and expression is a kind of kohinoor for every academician, for every academic scholar, और VDEM ने अभी इंडिया को क्रिटिकल सिचुएशन में रखा है अपनी रिपोर्ट में. नाउ विल मूव टू द नेक्स्ट पॉइंट, द ईरान कॉन्फ्लिक्ट एंड द फ्यूचर ऑफ शिया आइडेंटिटी. नाउ शिज्म पे क्या इम्पैक्ट पड़ने वाला है ईरान वॉर जो हो रहा है? यू कैन रीड दिस आर्टिकल. Academically, this article lacks a lot of fact. I mean, you might find, or you may find, a lot of people are giving so much importance to this article, but at the same time we have to understand that there is academically जो हमारे examinations हैं, CLAT, AILET and other law entrance test, उसके perspective से जो चीज़ें important होंगी, अगर हम उन्हें discuss करेंगे क्लास में, तभी we can get a substantial benefit. अब ईरान में जो वॉर चल रहा है, ईरान में जो वॉर चल रहा है, इसका शियाइज्म या शिया आइडेंटिटी पे क्या इम्पैक्ट पड़ेगा, इस पे अभी ये पूरा आर्टिकल डिस्कस किया गया है कि जब से 1979 का रेवोल्यूशन हुआ है. सो बेसिकली 1979 का जो रेवोल्यूशन है ईरान का, इट इज़ क्वाइट फेमस. एंड और उसी 1979 के रेवोल्यूशन के बाद सारी चीज़ें चेंज हुई. आयतुल्ला का पोजीशन क्रिएट किया गया, द पोजीशन ऑफ सुप्रीम लीडर वाज क्रिएटेड. फर्स्ट सुप्रीम लीडर के बाद जो सेकंड सुप्रीम लीडर बने आयतुल्ला अली खमेनी, बहुत strong leader थे. He was the supreme leader for good 37 years. और after he was assassinated on 28th of February 2026, his son Mojtaba Khamenei became the third supreme leader. So how the overall transition uh, and the current conflict in the Western Asia will have a very important impact on the identity of the Shia community, right? So this is something that we have to understand. Now we'll move to the next point, which is also very relevant. How bulldozer justice undermines the law. So basically, when we talk about the bulldozer justice, the Supreme Court of India from time to time has given a lot of important and strict guidelines to the state governments. That now what was happening, that even before the trial commences, even before the trial used to or even before the trial was concluded, authorities used to bulldoze the house of the accused. Now in India, we follow a very important system of justice, or a very important justice system, which is known as adversarial justice system. Students, please remember this. It is very relevant for your all entrance examination. Ki what kind of justice system does India have? So India have adversarial justice system. And what is the basic or the core tenets of the adversarial justice system? So the core tenets of the adversarial justice system are innocent until proven guilty. Till the point until an accused is proven guilty within the court of law, he will be considered as innocent. But in India, what used to happen in multiple states, that the after the order from the authorities कि जो accused का घर होता था उसको गिरा दिया जाता था. So it is actually against the law, and the Supreme Court of India has issued multiple guidelines to ensure that there is no bulldozer justice, because it actually violates a lot of fundamental rights of the accused. Now you have bulldozed the house of the accused, and now in the court of law or after the trial it is concluded that accused was not guilty. So basically you are also harming a very important fundamental right of that accused, that is article 21. He is an accused, but an accused also have fundamental right, and that is article 21, right to life and personal liberty, which says this: no one can take your life and personal liberty except the procedure established by law. Now लाइफ का एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट होता है शेल्टर. Right to shelter is also a fundamental right. So if the state authorities are demolishing the shelter of any individual, so this is the gravest kind of mistake which should be avoided by the authorities. तो ये नहीं होना चाहिए फिर अभी India's energy security amid conflicts. So right now, one of the most important concern for the Indian government is energy security. Because of the closure of Strait of Hormuz, the global supply of crude oil is impacted. This is something which is not a new point. But how in the current scenario India is ensuring that there is no severe impact on the Indian economy? This particular situation doesn't have a huge impact on the Indian economy. This is the important point that we have to consider. Now, India has diversified its portfolio when it comes to energy security. India is importing crude oil from more than 41 countries, which tells you one very important thing, that how fragile the situation is, right? We are importing crude oil from Russia as well. We are importing crude oil from Iran as well. We are importing crude oil from all these Middle Eastern countries. Now we'll import crude oil from Venezuela as well, right? So why such a huge diversification in our portfolio of the energy import or the oil import? Because the current situation is very sensitive, and India has to ensure that there is a continuous supply of the Brent crude oil. Now, currently the prices of the Brent crude oil are somewhere between 120 to 125 of dollars per barrel, and the rise in the prices of the crude oil is eroding India's foreign exchange reserve and which will actually reduce the value of इंडियन रुपीज. अभी आप लोग अगर देखें इंडियन रुपी का वैल्यू इट इज अबव $95, सॉरी अबव 95 रुपीज. $1 इज इक्वल्स टू 95 रुपीज, सम 16 और 14 पैसा, राइट. सो वी हैव टू इंश्योर कि हमारा जो फॉरेन एक्सचेंज रिजर्व है वो भी रोड ना हो. देन द नेक्स्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग, एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी इज डायरेक्टली रिलेटेड टू द इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ ऑफ अ कंट्री. जैसे अभी आप लोग अगर कॉन्टिन्यूसली न्यूज़पेपर फॉलो कर रहे हो तो आप लोग को पता होगा कि जो बहुत बड़ा चंक ऑफ सेरेमिक इंडस्ट्री था गुजरात में, वो अभी पूरी तरीके से नॉन फंक्शनल है. एंड द रीजन इज वेरी क्लियर, क्योंकि उनको ऑपरेट करने के लिए जो फ्यूल चाहिए था वो फ्यूल अभी नहीं आ पा रहा है, राइट. सो एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी विल हैव अ डायरेक्ट इम्पैक्ट ऑन द इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट ऑफ अ कंट्री. एंड फॉर द सेम रीजन the projection for the development of Indian economy has been reduced from 7.4% in financial year 2026 to 6.5% in financial year 2027, which is a reduction of 0.9%. Now, given the size of Indian economy, 0.9% will have a huge impact. And one of the core reasons for this decline is the shaky situation in the energy security domain, right? Then when Russia-Ukraine war started in 2022, a lot of sanctions were placed to stop India from buying the Russian crude oil. और रिसेंटली वो सैंक्शंस डोनाल्ड ट्रंप ने हम पे प्लेस किए. 50% का टैरिफ लगाया गया, 25% जनरल टैरिफ और 25% प्यूनिटिव टैरिफ था, बिकॉज वी यूज्ड टू बाय अ लॉट ऑफ रशियन क्रूड ऑयल. And America said we are the country who is sponsoring the Russia-Ukraine war. People in Ukraine, जो लोग भी यूक्रेन में मर रहे हैं उसके लिए इंडिया रिस्पॉन्सिबल है, राइट. बट इंडिया kept on buying the Russian crude oil. But United States of America threatened India that if you keep buying Russian crude oil, then we will impose sanctions on your country and we will not sign the trade deal with your country. So in order to ensure that we have a trade deal with United States of America, हमने क्या किया, रशिया से क्रूड ऑयल मंगवाना बंद कर दिया. बट उसके बाद में क्या हुआ, उसके बाद में जब वापस से 28 फरवरी को कॉन्फ्लिक्ट स्टार्ट होता है, सो यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका वेव्ड द सैंक्शंस ऑन द रशियन क्रूड ऑयल एंड देन अगेन वी इंक्रीज्ड दिस द परचेज ऑफ रशियन क्रूड ऑयल, राइट. सो ओवरऑल अभी रिसेंटली इस वॉर का एक और इम्पैक्ट क्या पड़ा है कि कमर्शियल जो एलपीजी सिलेंडर्स थे उनका प्राइसेस ऑलमोस्ट 38% इंक्रीज हो गया, 38% इन वन गो. नाउ इवेंचुअली इट विल हैव इम्पैक्ट ऑन every commercial output and the impact of the cost has to be borne by the consumers. अब अगर हम किसी रेस्टोरेंट से खाना ऑर्डर करते हैं और गैस के प्राइसेस बढ़ गए तो अल्टीमेटली क्या होगा, रेस्टोरेंट वो खुद के पॉकेट से तो पैसे देने वाला नहीं है, वो क्या करेगा, जो प्रोडक्ट्स है उनके प्राइसेस बढ़ा देगा और प्रोडक्ट का अल्टीमेट और या जो फाइनल प्राइस है वो किसको पे करना पड़ेगा, कंज्यूमर्स को. सो अल्टीमेटली द कंज्यूमर्स हैज टू फील द और हैज टू बेयर द एंटायर हीट. Now, this is the last passage that we'll be discussing in this article. The potential threat of disruption of the Indian oil import is real and immediate. Since the country import over 85% of its crude needs, with roughly 40% of its imports transiting through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, this is the main reason why this particular conflict is very important for India. We import 85% of our domestic needs. हमारा जो भी डोमेस्टिक नीड है क्रूड ऑयल का उसका हम 85% इंपोर्ट करते हैं और उसमें से भी 45% स्ट्रेट ऑफ हॉर्मुज से क्रॉस होता है. एंड सिंस 28th of February 2026 सिचुएशन इज नॉट नॉर्मल इन स्ट्रेट ऑफ हॉर्मुज. फर्स्ट इट वाज क्लोज्ड बाय इस्लामिक स्टेट ऑफ ईरान, नाउ देयर इज अ ब्लॉकेड बाय द यूएस नेवी, राइट. So ultimately, it will have a huge impact on the exchequer of India. For years, India has dependent heavily on imports, but the country has handled repeated shocks better than many comparable importers. It is now the world's third largest oil consumer. According to OPEC's forecast, India's consumption is expected to reach 5.74 million barrels per day in 2025 and almost 6 million barrels per day in 2026. While the International Energy Agency projects that India's crude oil demand will rise approximately 130 uh, uh, kb per day compared with 80 kbd for China. As Chinese demands become flatter and more cyclical, India has become one of the few large engines of incremental oil demand. So for the last few years, if our economy is growing, then one thing we have to understand, and one thing is pretty much clear, that the demand for the energy imports will ultimately increase. So why did the court only introduce guidelines for bulldozer justice like 15 days notice? Why didn't the court completely prohibit under Article 142? So why the court has not prohibited it absolutely under Article 142? Because there are certain situations when a particular person is not complying with the directions given by the authorities, तो उस particular case में हम bulldoze कर सकते हैं किसी property को. But in the normal circumstances, a 15 days notice is mandatory, because I am living in my house and out of nowhere authorities cannot invade my house and they will say now I will bulldoze your house, right? So that's why a 15 days notice was made mandatory, and that was bare minimum, right? So this is something that we have to understand, that how India can tackle the current problem, because हम अगर problem tackle नहीं करेंगे, हम 85% अपना जो global अपना जो domestic demand है उसको हम import करते हैं, और अगर हम इस चीज को timely deal नहीं करेंगे, then it will eventually it will have a huge impact on the Indian economy. Then US Secretary of State Mr. Marco Rubio is set to meet Pope Leo, और वो वेटिकन सिटी जा रहे हैं मिस्टर मार्को रूबियो. और ये विजिट इसलिए भी इम्पोर्टेंट हो जाता है क्योंकि अभी रिसेंटली जो डोनाल्ड ट्रंप हैं उन्होंने बहुत सारे स्टेटमेंट्स दिए हैं पोप लियो के अगेंस्ट में. तो उसके बाद ये थोड़ा सा इम्पोर्टेंट और हो जाती है विजिट, दैट हाउ यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका विल नॉर्मलाइज इट्स टाइज विद द वेटिकन. देन and then again we have Indian Premier League, so there is nothing important. Chennai Super King have defeated Delhi Capitals, so this was the 5th win for Chennai Super Kings. Mahendra Singh Dhoni is yet to make an appearance for the Chennai Super Kings. So I'll have a very quick I want to have a quick word with you guys. I mean, first, if you're watching this video, always try to ask as many questions as you can. हम ऑलमोस्ट हर दिन 50 to 55 मिनट साथ में स्पेंड करने वाले हैं, सो मेक इट मोर इंटरेस्टिंग. थोड़ा सा डायलॉग फॉर्मेट में रखते हैं. आई जस्ट कीप ऑन चेकिंग द चैट सेक्शन, उसमें थोड़ा सा आप कमेंट ड्रॉप करते रहिए. कीप ड्रॉपिंग योर सजेशंस, डू लाइक द वीडियो, एंड ऑलवेज फोकस ऑन मेकिंग नोट्स. अगर हम हर दिन की बात करें, ऑलमोस्ट हाफ अ पेज बिल्ड और 1 पेज का नोट्स आपका बनेगा. बट अल्टीमेटली एट द एंड ऑफ द डे, न्यूज़पेपर इज द लार्जेस्ट सोर्स ऑफ द इंफॉर्मेशन. न्यूज़पेपर से ज़्यादा आपको कहीं, इससे ज़्यादा इन्फॉर्मेशन कहीं नहीं मिलेगी. तो अगर आपने न्यूज़पेपर के नोट्स बना लिए हैं, सो यू कैन assure yourself that you have covered the maximum portion of the current affairs, right? Then the next important point is that it's all about giving more and more efforts. I know life is not easy, life is difficult for everyone, but at the end of the day we have to ensure that this is our life and we have every right to make it absolutely large, right? So keep on giving more efforts, keep on solving more questions, keep on revising things. And I always say this, that self belief is your biggest asset, right? CLAT का एग्जाम में अभी भी ऑलमोस्ट आपके पास में 215 डेज के आसपास में है, और वो कम नहीं होते हैं. 215 days are more than enough to crack any examination, right? So just give your 100% and ensure कि आप हर दिन जो आपका है वो आपकी प्रीवियस डे से बेटर हो. बी अ बेटर वर्जन ऑफ योर सेल्फ एवरी डे एंड ट्राई टू फोकस ऑन द कॉन्सेप्चुअल थिंग. 2 चीज़ें होती हैं, एक कॉन्सेप्ट बेस्ड सब्जेक्ट होते हैं, एक मेमोरी बेस्ड सब्जेक्ट होते हैं. जो मेमोरी बेस्ड सब्जेक्ट है उनको मेमोराइज करते रहिए, जो कॉन्सेप्ट बेस्ड सब्जेक्ट है उनकी प्रैक्टिस करते रहिए, जैसे लॉजिकल रीजनिंग हो गया, क्वांटिटेटिव टेक्निक हो गया. करंट अफेयर्स और जीके में चीज़ों को मेमोराइज करते रहिए जितना ज़्यादा मेमोराइज कर सकते हैं. कुछ भी आप अगर शॉर्ट ट्रिक डेवलप करना चाहते हैं, शॉर्ट ट्रिक डेवलप करिए. अगर आप कोई मेमोनिक्स डेवलप करना चाहते हैं, मेमोनिक्स डेवलप करिए, बिकॉज एट द एंड ऑफ द डे वन मार्क इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। आप वो वन मार्क कैसे लेकर के आते हैं, आप उसको याद करके लेकर के आते हैं या आप उसको रट करके लेकर के आते हैं, इट्स नॉट रेलेवेंट, बिकॉज एट द एंड ऑफ द डे वी वांट यू टू स्कोर मोर देन 100, बिकॉज इस बार का जो क्लैट का कट ऑफ था वो आप सब लोगों ने देखा है, राइट? सो दिस इज समथिंग विच वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड, and yeah, trust the process, trust yourself, trust the people who are around you, and that's it. On that note, I'll take your leave now. We'll see you tomorrow at the same time. Till then, bye bye. Take a good care of yourself, keep yourself hydrated, and that's it. Yeah, thank you so much. On that note, we'll wrap up today's session. Bye everyone, we'll see you tomorrow. Just take